so much for coming on the show. It's great to finally meet you because this is how we meet each other nowadays, over Zoom. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Hi, Chris. This is great to meet you. Thank you for having me. I'm Roy Baharav. I'm the CEO of Hi Auto. For those that haven't been able to spot the logo that is subtly placed there. Hi Auto is a company that focuses on drive-through QSR order taking. Automating that part. So if you drive with your car typically and order a burger at a QSR chain, you would get to the speaker pole, and someone at the restaurant with a headset would take your order. Then you would go to the window. At that point, you would get your food, pay, and go and eat your food. What we're doing is we are working on automating the part of the order taking using voice AI, plus some human supervision behind the scenes that allows us to get to very high levels of accuracy that are required for the restaurant to work well.
Cool. So why don't you explain, what is this QSR for people who don't know what that means?
Sorry. So quick service restaurants, and we're talking that for quick service restaurants, specifically in the US, drive-through ordering is the largest channel of ordering. And
whether that's a good or bad thing, we're not going to comment on that.
Right. I think it has a lot of advantages. It has a lot of advantages, specifically, by the way, during COVID, it was something that helped a lot of businesses, a lot of people, and was a safe way of purchasing.
Oh, absolutely. Drive-throughs must have shot through the roof during COVID. That must have been a huge time for drive-throughs.
Absolutely. So during COVID, drive-through sales went up 20 to 30%.
Whoa.
And it was a combination of all of the dining moving to the drive-through, and also restaurants without a drive-through essentially having to close, and then this business moved to those restaurants with a drive-through, plus all the incentives that the government gave people at that time, the stimulus checks, also encouraged this increase in business. So it was a very good time for the quick service restaurants.
Cool. So you're one of the founders of the company, right?
Yes. So yeah, sorry.
So I'm curious how you came across this idea. Like, where did you see, like, what was the genesis of this idea? How did you come up with it?
Right. So my background is I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I worked for Google for about almost 6 years.
Does that explain why you go to the drive-throughs a lot? Because you're so busy as a Google engineer?
I think that it's because the food at Google is not great. We always like to
don't say that around here. Thousands of Googlers are going, what are you talking about? It's great.
Yes, I don't think that that's exactly the reason. So I left at the beginning of 2019 to start Hi Auto together with two other co-founders. And when we started the company, we actually wanted to build a voice AI solution for the automotive space. We felt like that area is not solved well. And
I would agree with you 100%. Any voice attendants in cars are awful. Absolutely awful.
Right. So we initially attempted to go after that space, and then specifically we felt like noise suppression and speaker separation is an area that would help us get into this space we started developing a very deep tech technology in order to do that using a camera and a microphone. At some point,
Oh,
we
really?
got
So did the camera actually do like lip syncing or figure out what the person was saying? Why did you use a camera? I'm curious.
exactly. So what happens is the idea is use one microphone, which is already placed in the car, and cameras that are starting to also be part of the car for the driver monitoring systems, and then use these sensors that are already in the car in order to create a much better experience. And the camera, what it does is it allows the AI to understand who is speaking and to mute noises. So it's a bit like how our brain works, right? When you look at someone, especially someone with an accent, for example, and you are trying to understand exactly what they are saying, right? When you look at their lips, you're able to understand them much better than if you don't. And
Wow, that's cool. I didn't realize AI was doing that. That's phenomenal.
And it's very impressive. It's pretty amazing to see how you can take multiple speakers and just separate them into multiple channels. The small issue is that there is actually quite a distance between having a prototype and bringing that into a car. And then from there, taking over the voice AI space in the car, there is another gap. And we got to the conclusion that this vision that we had wasn't really grounded in reality. And it took us some time, but by the mid to the later part of 2020, we understood that there is a big opportunity around our knowledge domain in the drive-through space. COVID was underway, and we understood the need because we talked about the demand for drive-through ordering, but the issue was that people didn't want to work at that time because they got the stimulus checks from the government.
Right.
And any case,
so you didn't have anybody operating the drive-throughs. So you needed some way to do the drive-throughs without having people operating.
Exactly. And then the demand for this service of order taking at the drive-through, it made a lot of sense. Restaurants wanted to see how they can automate the business as much as possible, and they had money to spend at that time. But it turned out that the technology is much more complicated than
It's funny you should say that. It's like one of my sayings is it always works in the lab, right? It always works in the lab, and it works beautifully in the lab. As soon as you put it into the real world, it is like all bets are off, right?
Even in the lab, in this case, it's not that simple. I think the key here is that it sounds like, okay, listen, we have seen voice assistants and now these days ChatGPT, and it looks, what's new? So are you using like an API or something like that? But it turns out that, I don't know if you've watched the movie The Founder. Have you watched it about McDonald's?
Yes, I've seen that movie.
There is an iconic scene there in the happening on the tennis court, if you remember that, where they have like the staff of that was working with him or with them, the brothers, working on how to set up the restaurant in such a way that it's going to be a production line,
yeah. So like the workflow, they had the different locations and how people would be working, flowing through the workflow of creating the food. Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unforgettable, and it's like, so they move it, and Now imagine that every, I don't know, fifth order, there is a mistake. Now someone needs to stop. They need to go handle the mistake. And like, this production line, it doesn't work when you have mistakes.
Yeah.
And employees at restaurants are actually pretty amazing. There is, a lot of, it's a big challenge for quick service restaurants because it's hard to get labor and there is a lot of turnover. And sometimes you have to go to very young teenagers that work at restaurants. But, and then the result is, because you have this turnover and young employees, is that you get inconsistency in the result of the restaurant, which is really affecting, you can come once and you get great food, great service. You come another time and suddenly it's a bad experience. Yeah. And the brands that are most successful are able to be very consistent. Now,
well, they systematize it, and they need a lot of training. Like when you compare somebody sort of like from a McDonald's to an In-N-Out, the training of the individuals or McDonald's and say Chick-fil-A or something like that, the training is much more rigorous, right? They have to go through a lot of training to get to that level where they're going to provide that level of service, because you can tell it's a completely different level of service.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also when you work, and I had the chance of actually flipping burgers for a day at the
I did that too. I think every single person should go through a food service job at some point in their life, just to experience what it's like to be in a restaurant. And it has to be like a low level job, like not a manager, just like a flipping burgers or manning the deep fryers or something like that. Everybody's got to do it once in their life to get that experience.
By the way, even the managers are today, they are putting coleslaw in.
Oh yeah, they step in and do everything.
I can get into that, but I think the point I wanted, just to complete the point we started with, it's the labor is, when you look at like average accuracy in the industry of building an order and taking the order and building it all together, it's about 90%, 89%. It means that taking the order has to be at over 95% accuracy. This is the level of these employees that are turning over and are young and everything, all the challenges that you have with these employees. At the end of the day, they are over 95% accurate.
Yeah.
And so in order to replace this task so that you can redeploy the labor to other things, okay, you have to be at least as accurate and as fast as the employees. And then on top of it, you can start getting a lot of values of, controlling the digital experience across many stores and optimizing the sales pitch and using the right voice. And you can do a lot of different things. But if you are, instead of 95% accurate, you are 85% accurate, which is, we'll talk about in a second, is amazing, it's not good enough. And the reason why it's so difficult is because of a few things, but the first thing is that it's a back and forth conversation with, 5 to 8 turns. Second thing is that people are speaking like people, right? They are indecisive, and so they change their mind, and it's very difficult to understand what's happening. And then you have, on top of that, you have the noise, and on top of that, you have different menus in different branches. So all of that makes it a super difficult problem. And that's, I think, what we are working on.
Yeah. See, this is why I think everyone should work in a fast food service place, because they can understand what the person on the other end is going through as well. So I always, whenever I do it, I make sure like I'm 100% sure what I want when I get there, and I just give them the order and they respond it, and it's done. So I do maybe 2-3 turns if possible. But you're right. I mean, it's just the environment and everything that's going around around is really difficult. So how do you solve that problem? It sounds like a really hard problem for even a human to solve. How would an AI solve it?
So I think one solution is to have you crease order for everyone across the country. That would simplify
Do you
things.
remember standing in Starbucks and the guy in front of you was like, oh, I think I want, and like 20 minutes later.
So unfortunately, not everyone is as decisive and
well, that's why
straight.
you have to live. If you're on the other side, you understand what it's like, right? If you've ever taken orders, then you know,
Right.
you appreciate someone who can order properly. But anyway, so I digress. Go ahead. How do you do it?
So, so the way that Hi Auto is approaching this problem, and I think there are others that are also, using a similar approach, is similar to how Waymo is approaching the autonomous vehicles problem, where you may have a remote driver for every few cars, and if something happens, that remote driver can take over the driving, right? So even though you don't have a driving wheel in the car in San Francisco on the Waymo 1 cars, still someone can take control over that car if necessary. And we're using a similar approach where, in order to get to this level of confidence, if the system is unable to understand the intent of the customer, we are able in real time to dispatch a human and be able to interpret that intention and allow the system to continue and take the order.
So
it's
how does it know? How does it know when to punt it up to a human?
So there is essentially another model that is understanding the confidence of the system, and that model is able to predict when the system is about to make a mistake, and at that point we go to our human engine.
And how does the human know? Like, how does the context switching must be interesting? Because if there's a human who's watching like 15, 20 stores, how do they know? How do they get into the context and are able to continue the order when something comes in?
So we have a platform that is allowing them to do that, but in reality, they don't need to understand all the context. They just need to understand the intent of the customer.
Right.
So in many cases, the logic is not, they don't need to understand all the logic. They just need to understand things about the intent of the person that was speaking. And then the system would, based on the intent, the system would decide what to do.
And how would it punt it up to would the human processor actually come on the line, or would they just guide the AI?
No, it's an input that is coming behind the scenes.
Okay, so it would punt it to the human. The human would go, oh, I think this is what they mean, and then just basically guide the AI. So they're working together to get the order straight.
Exactly, it's a hybrid system, and over time, we are reducing the parts of the order taking that are handled by humans as we get we get more and more automation into this, and that's essentially the idea. The idea is to keep the accuracy level at a very high number, and then over time reduce the amount of involvement.
I'm assuming as you're building data sets, it's getting better. Your accuracy is getting better and better, and there's less need for the human intervention.
Absolutely, we're reducing the number of the involvement of a human per store significantly over time.
So, how many stores are you in right now? Where are you at on your launch cycle?
We are currently approaching 500 stores.
Wow, Fantastic. Any in the Bay Area that I can try out? Because I want to test it out.
So we have some in so not right in the Bay Area, but we don't like the Google employees to go and test our system. So we decided that no. So we actually have in Sacramento we have some stores. We have we have quite a few stores in Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, all of that part, and I think we are going to have some in the Bay Area soon. So California now is there is a big discussion around California because of the regulation that came in this April, so just a month and a half ago, which increases the minimum wage for restaurant employees to $20.
Right.
From
so this would be a
15.
prime state for your product.
It creates a huge toll on restaurant owners that suddenly, if you look at labor cost, it is about 25% of the cost of a restaurant. And then if you look at the drive-through order taking, let's say it's about 20 or I don't know, 25% of that, let's say on average. So it's about, I don't know, 5% of their so in general, their overall cost just went up by another 8%, and their drive-through order taking cost also went up. So everything is becoming more difficult, and what people see is that the prices are going up because they have no choice. So that's an area that is the ROI that they are getting there is just is more prominent.
And I'm assuming your solution is cost effective compared to hiring more people.
Yes. So I think that when you look at the ROI, during COVID, it was just how to stay open because people couldn't find employees.
Yeah.
Now, when the labor issue is less about staffing, it's still in some markets it is still very hard to find people, but in general it's possible. Now the ROI comes from one, redeploying labor. So once Hi Auto is taking the orders, that task is a labor content that is being saved. Now you can take this labor content and you can redeploy it to other things in order to accelerate the service. For example, as you accelerate the service, you typically would get more transactions as you have shorter lines, etc. Sometimes during parts of the day you can potentially save a little bit of labor time. Depends, each restaurant works differently. So that's one area, so redeploying labor. Second area is around the marketing. So we just announced a marketeer toolkit for quick service restaurants. And imagine that once you have control over the sales pitch of hundreds of restaurants, you can decide how the pitch is going to be at different regions.
Oh, that would be fantastic. It's like A/B testing. You could do all sorts of things.
Exactly. So that's on. So first of all, you control it. You can customize it based on the regions, the time of day, holidays, and you can decide. You can develop a voice that is like the voice of the brand, and you can have. If you have a dual lane, you can have a female voice on one side and a male voice on the other side. And all of these things are things that are actually being done.
Very cool. What about other languages? Like, can you have somebody order in Spanish or order in Chinese or whatever, and it would still, you could actually translate those to English and things like that? Are you working on that yet?
So we are supporting Spanish right now in beta. We are planning to take it out of beta very soon. So we already have dozens of restaurants that are bilingual, and we are planning to have most of the restaurants bilingual. I think it's very important for just making this the drive-through experience accessible for the Hispanic population. And so if you are someone that is concerned about the order taking experience, if you come in and you know that you can order in Spanish, I think it's a better experience. And I think there are also advantages down the line for other other types of population that you can make this experience better for them. If it's
so can you do online? Can you do phone ordering as well? So can I call in to the Hayato agent and put my order in that way as well, or is it only for drive-through?
So currently, Hayato is doing only drive-through. Phone ordering for the drive-through is potentially something that we would offer. There is another segment of voice AI order taking that is called the phone ordering. That segment it sounds the same. Okay, it sounds the same.
Sounds like it would be the same, yeah.
But actually, there is a lot of special work that needs to happen for each of these areas. So while the basic engine may be similar, phone ordering, you have to answer different types of questions. People come in with not always it's about order taking. Sometimes it's something else.
Yeah, I can see how that would be the ordering set of commands and things on a drive-through would be much smaller than it would be with a phone order. Phone order could be a lot broader conversation.
Right, and you need to support credit cards on phone ordering. And so other requirements. On the other end, it's much more forgiving in terms of accuracy and in terms of speed. So you can ask the customer to repeat and repeat again. And it can take 5 minutes.
You don't want a lineup of cars behind you, right? You need to get these moving fast. So this is great. So it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2034, 10 years from now. Where will you be in 10 years? What do you see? What do you see things happening in 10 years?
So I think maybe to talk broadly about the restaurant space or the quick service restaurant space, I think that we're certainly moving into a more automated space. I think that the vision of some of the experts is that you're going to have essentially a restaurant that looks like your podcast. And so your podcast today requires only you. In the past, if you wanted to broadcast something like that, right, you would need someone that would do the videotaping. You would need someone that is doing you would need 10 different people to work on this company. And I think that restaurants are moving through this process as well. I think that the challenges today, so I think there are going to be 2 or 3 steps. Right now, we are in the automation age. The next age is going to be an age where we are going to make the employees able to connect with the data. So today, we're just replacing the order taking. In the future, we would be able to tell the employees what to do. So once you understand, okay, what's happening in the back of the house, what needs to be prepared, what tasks out of the weekly tasks can take place right now, we're already speaking with the employees. We talk to the guests, but we also speak with the employees. You can start guiding the employees what to do, and you can make the restaurant more efficient. So you're connecting the employees to the data. That's the second level, but you need for that vision AI that works well. plus the voice AI, plus the connection to the data. And I believe that's going to be like in 3 or 4 years. I think this area of kitchen operations is going to be a big area. And then the next level, and there you need the hardware to be much better, is when things can happen automatically in a flexible way. And then you're going to see a restaurant that is operated by potentially one person. But it's very hard to tell if that's going to be in 7 years or in 17 years. So I predicted that my son wouldn't need to get a driver's license, and I'm wrong. And so
well, I have 2 sons, and one of them has a driver's license, and one loves Uber and doesn't have a license. So I'm half right. But it's cool. So you'll see that I like that interesting interim step, because that fits into this task economy concept that I have, where you're going to have AI dispatchers basically saying, okay, you AI do this part, which is good for you, which AI can do, and here you human do this part, which only humans can do. And so there'll be that interim space where, and in fact, that space is probably going to last a really long time, because we're all designed, all of our facilities are designed for humans, right? They're not designed for machines. So when we're going to have sort of purpose-built facilities so that machines can create the food. And there are a couple. I don't know if you've seen the one in San Francisco, the burger joint or whatever. There's a burger joint that has a machine that creates burgers. But I think that's going to be a long way off. I think this interim step that you're talking about, where you have the machines directing the humans to take this, and they might even be helpful. It's like, okay, I can sense you're tired. Go take a break, right?
Exactly. I think, listen, you look at a vending machine. A vending machine is that, it's an environment built for the machine.
Yep.
And by the way, there are also now pizza shops. There are pizza shops that are able to make you a pizza. I don't know if you have seen it. It's like it looks like a huge box where you can decide what sauce exactly do you want. You pay on an iPad, and the pizza is being prepared completely automatically. There is no person there.
I have not seen that, but we have a ramen machine just down the street where it makes the ramen for you in the same way. Like, you get to pick what you want in your ramen, and boom, it creates the ramen. So we're getting to that point, but it seems like a long way before we have like QSR restaurants being fully automated.
Yeah, because sorry, my son is calling me.
That's okay.
No,
we'll wrap up in a second.
No. It is super expensive to build a hardware today. So this is what I meant by saying that it needs to be flexible. The hardware needs to be flexible. So and it's a question of price and flexibility, and so this is why it's so hard to know, like, whether it's going to be this hand that is going to be completely generic and it needs to move, and how much is it going to cost, and what kind, it's very hard to say how things are going to look like. I think what's interesting, I've listened. I told you I've listened to your a couple of your podcasts, and one of the things you're saying there is that we shouldn't build AI to be like humans. We should make it be better than humans, or do what we need that to be. But essentially here, because the environment, as you said, is built for humans, you need the AI to, first of all, be able to do the human task, and then at that point you can start building advantages on top of it. And I think that for the foreseen future, it is going to be the work of humans and automation and an AI all together. And even, Hi Auto, is, it's a combination of AI, automation, and humans behind the scenes. So it's like all of this is being meshed together in order to bring efficiency and business value, and then at the end of the day is providing a lower cost, better product for the consumer.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's going to be humans and AI together doing almost everything. I don't see humans ever coming out of the mix in a lot of things, and by choice. So I think that's definitely the way. So thank you so much. This has been great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way is to go to www.hi.auto, or where they can send us an email to info@hi.auto, and that's it. And my email is roy@hi.auto, and I'm always happy to speak with anyone. So I really appreciate having me on this show. Amazing program you built, and
thank you.
I really love the conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great. I'll put all the links in the show notes in the description so people can go directly to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.